Hi.
Hey everyone, Shanox here. Welcome to this Assassination Rogue PvP guide for 8.0.1. In this guide, we're going to have a look at stat priority, talents, honor talents, Azerite traits, and a bit of gameplay, which means how to open, how to deal damage, and what to do against specific comps. Let's get started. When it comes to stats, you will obviously want to stack as much agility as you can. For secondary stats, you will first want to stack haste, then mastery, then critical strike, and last, versatility. Haste increases our passive energy regeneration and our attack speed, which means more melee damage and more deadly poison damage. However, this is not enough to make haste our best stat. But with BFA, haste was changed and now affects bleeds and poisons. That means bleeds and poisons will now tick faster if you have more haste. Out of this, we get more damage and we also get more energy through venomous wounds. This is why haste is so good for assassination rogues. Mastery increases your bleed damage and poison damage. Critical strike increases your chance to score a critical hit. The reason why mastery is more important than critical strike in PvP is because a critical hit will only deal 50% more damage in PvP as opposed to the 100% additional damage in PvE. Critical strike is still really useful for damage and because of Seal Fate, which gives you additional combo points when you crit, but overall mastery will grant you more damage. Versatility increases our damage and damage reduction by a flat amount. This is currently our worst stat simply because all other stats provide strong benefits. So you will basically never want to stack versatility, and if you can have anything else on your gear, it will be better. Because of the stat ranking, you will want to enchant all your gear with haste. That means Pact of Haste on your fingers and quick navigation on your main hand weapon. On your offhand weapon, you can go with either Deadly Navigation or Masterful Navigation. If you want to follow the stat priority, then pick Masterful Navigation. It will be slightly better, but both are decent choices. As for gems, you can have one agility gem on your gear, so you should take it, and all the gems should be haste gems. Now let's talk talent talents. In the first row, we get to choose between Master Poisoner and Elaborate Planning. The third option, Blindside, is not viable. Master Poisoner increases the damage done by deadly poison, the slow of crippling poison, and the healing reduction of wound poison. Elaborate Planning is a simple increase to damage that will help you burst people down. In my opinion, both talents are very good, and you actually need to think about what you're playing with and what you're playing against in order to pick the best one. So how do you choose between these two talents? If you're playing against a Holy Paladin, you always pick Elaborate Planning because Holy Paladins have a Honor talent to dispel your poisons all the time. The Master Poisoner is useless. If you're playing with a Frost Mage, you pick Elaborate Planning as well. You're trying to kill on setups when the healer is in CC, so you do not need the extra healing reduction effect from Master Poisoner, and you do not need the extra slow because the mage already has better slows than you. And you need burst damage, so Elaborate Planning is the best choice. If you're playing in a 2 vs 2 environment, I think Elaborate Planning is almost always the best choice because you're trying to kill when the enemy healer is in CC, so you do not need extra healing reduction effect, but you need burst damage. Also, you have one of the best slows in the game, so you do not need Master Poisoner to increase it in 2 vs 2 against most comps. If you're facing a Frost Mage in 2 vs 2, that's where you want to pick Master Poisoner to be able to catch up with him. And if you're playing a dot-based comp in 3 vs 3, you will pick Master Poisoner as well because you do not need burst damage, you need sustained pressure, and you need healing reduction. If you're facing anything else or playing with anything else, you have to think about whether you need burst damage, or you need slows, or you need healing reduction, and you will be able to pick the best talent if you ask yourself these questions. The second row is very easy. You always pick Subterfuge no matter what. This is an amazing talent. It allows you to use several openers when you exit stealth, so you can cheap shot the entire enemy team, you can garrote the entire enemy team, you can basically start the game however you want. Also, if you make a mistake and get popped out of stealth early, you have 3 seconds to cast an opener. So that gives you some kind of safety net. Also, if you face a hunter and he uses flare and you want to open someone who's in the flare, you can stay outside the flare, throw a knife that will trigger subterfuge, walk in the flare, and proceed with your opening. If you do not pick subterfuge, you cannot open someone in the flare, you will lose stealth before you reach him. On the third row we have two options, Vigor and Mark for Death. You will almost always be playing Mark for Death. It is an incredible talent that gives you 5 combo points every time you have a kidney, basically, and that's an extra envenom every kidney. This is a lot of burst damage and will help you kill targets. You might consider Vigor if you're playing a comp that relies on sustained damage, but even if you're playing such a comp, Mark for Death remains a very good talent, and because of this, you will almost never spec out of it. On the fourth row, we have only one real option, Elusiveness. It makes Feints become a 15-second CD that reduces all damage taken by 30%. This is insane, you should never spec out of it, and you have to learn how to use it correctly. If you manage to feint just before you get stunned, or just before you take heavy damage, and not 1 second after, you will be a lot more tankier. If you're really new to Rogue and have trouble managing the spec, you can spec into Cheap Death in order to learn how to play Assassination Rogue without bothering with feint, and when you get more comfortable with the spec, then you go Elusiveness and learn how to use it. On the fifth row, you'll want to pick Internal Bleeding. It is the best option because you get a guaranteed bleed that deals quite a good amount of damage during kidney shot, and you get additional energy regeneration that will help you kill your target during the kidney shot. Prey on the Weak was a good option before it got nerfed, but now that it is only a 5% increased damage taken, Internal Bleeding is the winner on this row. On the sixth row, you will pick Toxic Blade. This is the strongest option. It increases your sustained damage and burst damage by a lot. If you pick Mark for Death, you will notice that the cooldown is very similar and is very close to the cooldown of kidney shot. So basically, what you can do is every time you have a kidney shot, you wait for Mark for Death and Toxic Blade, and you kidney shot your target, Toxic Blade, get 5 combo points, Envenom, Mark for Death, Envenom, and that's a crazy amount of damage. Even more if you pick Elaborate Planning because you will be under the 10% buff all this time. On the 7th row, you only have one option, Poison Bomb. This is a passive increase to your damage and has a lot of burst potential, and you pick it because the two other options are completely useless. Now let's talk about Honor Talents. For the trinket, you will always use Gladiator's Medallion. I think it's really better than anything else. If you're human, you can play Relentless against rogues or warriors or monks because you have a trinket for their stuns, and Relentless will reduce the duration of all other CC. So it is an option, but most of the times, even if you're human, you will pick Gladiator's Medallion. Your first Honor Talent will be Deadly Brew. This causes your deadly poison to also apply a minor wound poison effect that reduces healing taken by the target by 15%. This is your best Honor Talent overall and is what makes Assassination Rogue so good. You have to pick this talent in all situations. When playing 3 versus 3, the 2 Honor Talents you have left will almost always be Smoke Bomb and System Shock. System Shock is amazing for bursting targets down. It synergizes very well with Mark for Death and Toxic Blade and is a really good addition to your damage. Smoke Bomb in 3s is amazing for separating a DPS from his team, allowing you and your team to kill him. In 2s, you will not pick Smoke Bomb and replace it with either Creeping Venom or Mind Numbing Poison depending on what team you face. If they have a lot of poison dispels, you will not pick Creeping Venom. And if they have a lot of casts, you will pick Mind Numbing Poison. The reason why we do not pick Smoke Bomb in 2s is because most classes will survive the Smoke Bomb, and you will just lose a Talent, and in the end you will put way more pressure if you get a damaged Talent. There are a few situations where you want to pick different Haunted Talents. For example, if you're fighting a Frost Mage in 2 vs 2, you will swap out System Shock to get Death from Above. This will give you a second gap closer to catch the mage in addition to Shadow Step. You can replace Creeping Venom for maneuverability if you want. It is not necessary, but it can help you. If you do this, you have to be mindful of when you use your sprint because you do not want to get rooted during maneuverability. If you're facing a Holy Paladin, you will not pick Creeping Venom and you will not pick Mind Numbing Poison because Fear of Heart will dispel them all the time and they will never do damage. So you can pick either Smoke Bomb. This is one of the rare scenarios where it's useful. You can also pick Death from Above if you want to try to avoid CC with it, or if you want extra damage, or if you want to catch someone who's kiting you. And the last option would be maneuverability, but I think Smoke Bomb or Death from Above are better. And if you face a Disciplined Priest or a Rogue in 2s, I've been experimenting Neurotoxin, and I've come to the conclusion that it is pretty good talent against Disciplined Priests, because if they use Rapture and use Neurotoxin, they cannot spam the shields, so they lose on Rapture. And if you kick them on Holy and use Neurotoxin, they cannot spam Shadow Man, so they cannot heal themselves. Against Rogues, it's an okay talent because it will slow down their combo point generation, so they will deal less damage during Neurotoxin, and that can help you a lot if your healer or you are in danger. Now let's go over Azerite traits. For the outer ring, you need 1 Shrouded Suffocation. It is mandatory. The damage increase is not that amazing, but the fact that you get 3 combo points out of Garrosh is incredible. It allows you to have really powerful openers and to get really nice offensive vanishes during the game. The other good traits are Scent of Blood if you plan on dodging several targets. I personally do not like it, but it's a good trait. You can also pick Twist the Knife, that is an amazing trait. Battlefield Precision or Battlefield Focus, which is an amazing trait as well. And Double Dose, that is okay. I currently have Double Dose, Shrouded Suffocation, and Battlefield Precision, because these are my best pieces of gear. But I think the best setup would be Shrouded Suffocation, Battlefield Precision, and Twist the Knife, or Shrouded Suffocation and 2 Battlefield Precisions. For the second ring, you want to get your hands on either Overwhelming Power or Heat My Core. These are the 2 best traits you can have. Heat My Core can deal crazy amounts of damage, and Overwhelming Power increases your haste by a lot, which increases your energy regeneration and your damage by a fair amount. If you cannot have these 2 traits, Gut Reaper is a decent option, and I think Elemental Whirl is okay as well. But really, Overwhelming Power and Heat My Core are way better. And if you can't have any of these 4 traits, I suggest you try to get another Azerite piece of gear, because all the traits are really not as good as those for rogues. For the third ring, you want either Impassive Visage, Shrouded Mantle, or Resounding Protection. And maybe Azerite Fortification is okay as well. In my opinion, these traits are the best. However, the third ring is not that impactful in PvP, so if you do not have it, or if you have bad traits, this is not a problem at all, and you can still play and win games without it. Now that your character is all set up, let's look at what happens in an arena game. We'll talk about the opener, how to deal damage, when and how to burst, and if there are specific comps against which you have to behave differently. When you start an arena game, the first thing you have to do is set up some CC. If you're playing in 2 versus 2, you have to sap the healer and open on DPS with Corrode, Mutilate, Rupture, Mark to Death, and Kidney Shot. You never cheap shot the target you plan on killing, because if you do this, you have to wait 20 seconds before you can have a full kidney shot, and you will kill targets only during kidney shot. If you're in 3 versus 3 and you're playing without a mage, you want to sap the healer, cheap shot the DPS who will not attack, and garrote the kill target, Rupture because you will have 5 combo points, Mark to Death, Kidney Shot, and attack. If you're playing with a mage, you want to sap the DPS who will not attack, cheap shot the healer, and garrote the target you want to kill, Rupture, Mark to Death, Kidney Shot. You cheap shot the enemy healer if you're playing with a mage, because if you do this and you've sapped the other DPS first, your mage can basically have a free polymorph on the enemy healer, and you will have the cheap shot duration as well, so it will be a longer CC, and the DPS you're attacking will have a longer time without heals. Of course, this is what you have to try to do, but sometimes you won't do it. You won't be able to, you won't want to. Let's say you're in 2 versus 2 where you want to attack the healer. You can sap DPS and open a healer instead. You can also sap healer, open DPS with a cheap shot, and kidney shot the healer right when sap ends so he can't heal his teammate, and you go for him. If you're in 3 versus 3, sometimes you will face a warrior, so you can't sap the warrior and cheap shot healer, because if you do this, the warrior will be able to rage out of the sap and keep your mage, so you won't have a polymorph on the healer. You could also be fighting a druid or a shaman that is in wolf or bear form, and if you cheap shot that, you won't be able to get a polymorph on it because he's not in caster form, so you have to sap this healer and cheap shot the DPS instead. There are a lot of situations you have to adapt to, so be always mindful of what you're playing against in order to make the best openers you can. After the opener, the game is started. You are now trying to kill your target. As an assassination rogue, the best way for you to kill your target is by throwing a kidney shot on a target that will not receive healing when you have heavy damage cooldowns available. So you have to watch out for the cooldown of kidney shot, of toxic blade, of mark to death, and for the diminishing returns on stuns. Once you have every cooldown and there is no diminishing return on stuns, you can try to kill your target. So what you want to do is wait for energy. You will not kidney shot a target to kill him if you do not have energy. Second, you make sure your dots are applied and will last longer than kidney shot. 10 seconds is a minimum. Then you kidney shot your target, toxic blade, mutilate, envenom, mark to death, envenom. And after this, you proceed with reapplying dots if needed, mutilate, envenoms, normal rotation for assassination rogues. This will be heavy damage during your kidney shot. If you can do this on the enemy healer on 2 versus 2, you will most likely kill him after a few goes. If you want to do this on the DPS, it is better wait for the enemy healer to be under CC, but because it's 2, there is dampening, it does not really matter, and you can almost do this on cooldown. If you're playing 3 versus 3, you have to be a bit more patient, and you have to communicate with your teammates to make sure that there is CC on the enemy healer when you attempt to kill a target, because if the enemy healer is free, your target will just be healed up, and you will have done all of this for nothing. At least until there is heavy dampening, and this is not always the case in 3s. I know I said that I would describe what to do against specific comps, but I'm realizing that it would take me a lot of time to do it properly. So I guess the best thing I can do is tell you to watch my videos if you are looking for tips against a matchup that I have uploaded. If I have not uploaded, you can ask me. And if you're looking for threes pointers, I sadly have not uploaded threes videos yet because I haven't played a lot. I just played a bit around 2K1 and not above because I did not have mate since I'm kind of new to retail. But I found players to play with, so I'll most likely play a lot more serious PvP next season. And I'll also try to play Outlaw. I've leveled another rogue to do this. So yeah, if you have any question, I welcome them. So do not hesitate to ask me. And if you have feedback, so if the guide was okay, if it was terrible, if it was good, just tell me. And if you have things I can improve on, I'd gladly listen because if I want to do more videos like this in the future, I need to know what to do better and what not to do and what to do that I did not do, for example. So thanks for watching this and thanks for your feedback if you have any. And have a nice day.
Goodbye.